and Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hopefully you've had a nice start to your week. Oh, it's Thursday. We're like near the end of the week. Hopefully you've had a good week so far. My days are so messed up. Colts schedule came out last night. Destin Adams of A to Z Sports, who covers the Colts over there, he's going to join the show. And we're going to talk about the Colts schedule. We'll probably get into Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones, what that battle is going to look like as well, because I can never talk about that enough. That's just the very simple reality of it. Thank you for tuning into the show, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy's Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching on Twitter, _ Jonathan Smith, if you want to follow me there. And you can also listen via that Indy Sports Ticket app. Let's start with the Indianapolis Colts schedule, which came out last night. The video was awesome. I thought it was, at least. If you didn't see it, it's this like Minecraft thing, and they show the schedule in Minecraft. I thought it was really good. You know, they threw shots at people as well, which was really cool. They had Patrick Mahomes Sr. fighting John Rocker. If you missed that, Twitter beef happened around the time of the Super Bowl. They talked about fighting it rough and rowdy. I think Patrick Mahomes Jr. stepped in and was like, absolutely not. You can't do that, Dad. You're kind of old. And then, so that's still a big deal. That was funny. When they announced the Rams game, they had Schultz and Rappaport, two different reporters fighting at a Starbucks that happened here in Indy during the Combine. I don't know if you missed that too, but that happened. But they had to take the video down because week 1, they play the Dolphins. And to announce the Dolphins video, they had a dolphin swimming around in a Tyreek Hill jersey, and they had the Coast Guard pull the dolphin over. I found it very funny, throwing shots at Tyreek Hill and his arrest record, but it wasn't like they just made fun of him. They made fun of everybody, and it was great. I thought it was really good, but they had to take it down because of that, which I just think is soft. I think that they should have left it up. Come on, beef. Let's be interesting. That would have been really interesting. Anyway, talking about the actual schedule itself and not the schedule release video, which once again was awesome. I hate that they had to take it down. I had a few takeaways. Biggest one, this schedule's brutal. It's tough. This is not an easy schedule by any stretch of the imagination. And the first thing that we're going to learn over the first month of the season is how good this Indianapolis Colts defense is early. We're going to find out very quickly whether or not Lou Anarumo can coach or not. So obviously they opened with the Miami Dolphins, and I get it. The Miami Dolphins didn't make the playoffs last year. They haven't won a playoff game since the year 2000, the longest drought in the sport. But the Miami Dolphins can score, and they're going to be healthy, which means Tyreek Hill is going to play, and Tua Tagovailoa is going to play, and Jalen Waddle is going to play, and Raheem Mostert and the rest of their speedy backs are going to be available. We're going to find out week 1 whether or not Lou Anarumo can coach, and maybe he does well, maybe he struggles a little bit. Week 2, he's going to have an opportunity to further prove himself or redeem himself, because week 2, they get to play the Broncos. Year 2 of Bo Nix and Sean Payton is going to be electric. Obviously, that was a surprise team last year who found a way to, make the playoffs. A team last year that the Colts should have beaten in Denver, but couldn't find a way to do it because Jonathan Taylor dropped the football before he scored. And, A.D. Mitchell, good thing he did his job. He threw a pick 6 on a trick play when the Colts didn't need to run a trick play. But we're going to get another nice glimpse into what this Lou Anarumo defense can do week 2 when they play the Broncos, Bo Nix, and Sean Payton. Week 3, slight break. They play the Titans. Winnable game, playing against Cam Ward early in his NFL career. So Colts should be fine that week. That shouldn't be some crazy tough test for Lou Anarumo and this defense. Then in week 4, they play the Rams. Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay, Devontae Adams just got added to that group. Puka Nacua is still there. I know that Cooper Kupp's gone. He's in Seattle, but Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford. That's another great offense that this Indianapolis Colts team is going to have to face. And in addition to that, the Rams defense is also pretty good. Like, the Rams are thinking Super Bowl this year. That's why they brought Matthew Stafford back. It's why they went out and got Devontae Adams. Like, that is 3 good to great level offenses and 3 teams in the Dolphins, Broncos, and Rams that expect to be good this year. We don't know about the Titans yet. It'll all kind of depend on how good or bad Cam Ward is going forward. So we're going to find out very quickly about this Lou Anarumo-led defense. I think the Colts will be fine. I don't think they'll be great. I don't think they'll be terrible. I think that the defense will be good enough to give the Colts an opportunity to win the football game. That's kind of what I expect, and that's really all that you can ask for when you go down this Colts roster and you realize that there's a lack of a major pass rushing presence. The linebacker group, I'm a little worried about that. But hey, the secondary is much better, so we'll see how all of that goes. But look, we're going to find out about the Colts really in general because, all 3 of those teams that I just listed, like the Broncos defense is probably going to be good again. The Rams defense, already hit on it, going to be pretty good again. And then, of course, week 1, Miami, that defense is going to be fine. We'll see. Titans, who cares? I don't think they're going to be very good this year. Anyway, so we're going to very quickly find out about the Colts, just in general. After those 4 games, the schedule doesn't get any easier. They're going to play the Raiders in week 5, who should be better with Geno Smith and Tom Brady kind of being involved there. And Pete Carroll's a very good head coach. The Raiders are going to be good. Max Crosby coming off the edge. The Cardinals, I don't think people expect them to be good. I do. Okay, they're playing them week 6, which means Kyler Murray's probably still going to be healthy. And when Kyler Murray was healthy last year, the Cardinals were good. No other way to really put it. So, like, that game is tough. Then they're at the Chargers, traveling all the way out to L.A. to play Justin Herbert and, Jim Harbaugh, a really good head coach and a very good starting quarterback. Yeah, good luck. That game's going to be incredibly tough. And then week 8, they play the Titans at home. Through the first half of the season, through the first 8 weeks of the Indianapolis Colts season, there's only 2 games that I look at on their schedule, and I say, I feel pretty good about the Colts winning those 2 games. Both of them are against the Titans. Like, there is no easy win in those other 6 games. Like, if the Colts were to start 2-6 with 2 wins over the Titans, that wouldn't be very far-fetched. I actually think that makes a lot of sense because that schedule to start is just, it's so brutal. It's so brutal. And then week 9, we're just right back to more tough games at Pittsburgh. And I know that the Colts have beaten the Steelers for these last 2 years, and that's cool. That's great. As of right now, the Steelers don't have a quarterback. They're going to find someone to play quarterback. And it's the Steelers, and that defense is going to be awesome. And the offense is probably going to figure out a way to run the football and stay in games because Mike Tomlin is an excellent head coach. He just doesn't coach bad teams. So that game, week 9 at Pittsburgh, that game's going to be tough because the Steelers are tough. And then week 10, they're going to play the Falcons. That should be a game that I feel good about them winning. It should be, but I don't. Because it's in Germany. Another reason to hate the games that are overseas. Playing that game in Germany, the games overseas are weird, so it's very hard for me to be confident about that game. If it was a real home game and the Falcons were playing the Colts at Lucas Oil, I'd be like, Colts, all the way. I feel pretty good about that. But nope, game's in Munich, I think. So kind of hard to be confident about that one. And then week 11, they get their bye week. Another reason to hate the game overseas is like time zones. Like you get messed up and then you spend that bye week just like readjusting And it's weird. And I just don't feel like people are as productive when their bodies are used to a different timing schedule. And then week 11, or excuse me, week 12, my bad. The bye week is week 11. Week 12, they get to go to Kansas City. That's a loss. Do I need to elaborate on that? Then, week 13, they finally get to play the Houston Texans. That's a winnable game, even though I do expect for the Houston Texans to be the best team in that division. Week 14, they're at Jacksonville. This probably won't be the year that they break the curse of Jacksonville. Even though I will argue it is an advantage to play them later in the year. They hired a new head coach, Liam Cohen, very good head coach. Helped Baker Mayfield put together, the best year of his career. So playing them later in the year allows you to get a little bit more tape on them, and the new scheme and what Trevor Lawrence kind of looks like within that scheme. So that is a slight advantage, but it's in Jacksonville. Therefore, the Colts will not win that football game. Week 15, they're at Seattle, just, one of the toughest places to play in the NFL. That game feels winnable. Seattle's offensive line is bad, and I don't think Sam Darnold is going to be a top 5 quarterback in every major statistic again this year. So maybe the Colts find a way to go to Seattle and win. Week 16, they're on Monday Night Football. They'll play the 49ers at home. I think that game's going to be winnable, but we'll see. The 49ers should be super banged up by them with that old roster that they have. Brock Purdy is going to be on pumpkin watch. And then week 17, they will close the season with the Jacksonville Jaguars at home. In terms of opponent, that is the easiest stretch of their season. And it's not an easy stretch in the slightest. I think Seattle and San Francisco are wild cards this year. Like if Seattle was good, I wouldn't be surprised because I think that Mike McDonald is a good head coach. And for the 49ers, I think that they're going to be good. I think I like Brock Purdy. I know I like Kyle Shanahan. I know I like all the weapons around him. The issue is, can they stay healthy? That's an older roster. So if Seattle and San Francisco were both good, I wouldn't be surprised. If they were both bad, I wouldn't be surprised. That stretch also contains the road game at Jacksonville. They close their season with the Houston Texans in week 18. And, the Texans will probably have the division all locked up by then. And so maybe, just maybe, the Colts will be able to start the 2026 season undefeated again. And maybe, just maybe, that'll be enough for Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen to retain their jobs for one more season. This is an incredibly tough schedule. I think the floor for the Colts is 5-12. That's the floor. I think they beat Miami week 1. I think they sweep the Titans. They beat them both twice. I think that they beat Jacksonville at home, and I think they beat the Texans at home. Every other game is a very easy game for them to lose. It's the reality of it. Even that Dolphins game, if they lost Miami week 1, I wouldn't be surprised. So maybe the floor is 4-13. And then, instead of going glass half full on the ceiling, I went glass completely full. What if everything works out for the Indianapolis Colts? What if Anthony Richardson, completes 62% of his passes this year and Jonathan Taylor runs for 1,400 yards again? And Lou Anarumo is as good as everyone thinks that he's going to be. I would then say that their ceiling is 12-5. I think that is the absolute best record we could see from the Colts this year. They can beat Miami. They can beat Denver at home. I think they will win at Tennessee. I don't think they're winning at the Rams. Vegas at home. That's going to be a tough game, but it's winnable. The Cardinals at home. That's a tough game, but it's winnable. At the Chargers, I don't think that they're going to win that one. Tennessee at home. That's a very winnable game. At Pittsburgh, that game is winnable, maybe, depending on who they wind up having play quarterback this next season. Atlanta and Germany, that game's going to be weird. Very possible to win it. At Kansas City, they're not winning that one. Houston at home, very winnable. At Jacksonville, they're not winning that one. At Seattle, tough road game. Sam Darnold, though, is he going to be good again? I don't know. Probably not. That game's winnable. The 49ers at home, that game's very winnable depending on how healthy the 49ers are this year. Jacksonville at home, they should win that game. And then last game of the year at Houston, I don't think that they're winning a road game against the Texans if the Texans don't have the division locked up at that point, and in glass half full world, or no, excuse me, in glass filled all the way up and overflowing with positivity world, the one that we're living in right now, that says that the Colts could maybe go 12-5 this year, then obviously they wouldn't be there, and they would go to Houston, and they would probably lose that game. So at the end of the day, Colts are probably going to go like 9-8. It's the reality of it. They'll win a couple games that they shouldn't because the other team is banged up or injured. Anthony Richardson will have a New York Jets-like game that he did last year where he just, completes 67% of his passes and looks awesome. And they'll win a couple games that way. And they'll have a game where they play a quarterback who's normally pretty good, who all of a sudden stops playing well for some reason. And they'll pick up a few wins that they shouldn't. This is another 8-9, 9-8 kind of football team, and we'll kind of see how things go for them. But that schedule, really tough. Really, really tough. But look, if Lou Anarumo can coach up the defense to a level that we expect him to be at, if Anthony Richardson can develop and just be solid, then the Colts are going to have chances to win games. For me, it really comes down to those two things. Does Anthony Richardson develop? If not, then can Daniel Jones be serviceable? And is Lou Anarumo going to be as good of a defensive coordinator as has been advertised, throughout this entire offseason where we've just paraded around and being like, we have the mad scientist? We'll see. I don't know. When we come back here in about 4 minutes or so, I'm going to put a bow on Pacers Cavaliers. Knicks losing last night. That's big. We'll probably talk about that a little bit at some point during the show as well. Once again, coming up 11:40, Destin Adams is going to join the show, and we're going to continue to talk about the Indianapolis Colts and their schedule for this season. But when we come back here in about 4 minutes, we're going to put a bow on Pacers Cavaliers Game 5 and on that series as a whole.
The best takes. Maybe. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hopefully you've had a nice week. It is Thursday. Who's watching here? I can't pronounce that, but whoever in the YouTube chat said happy Thursday. Happy Thursday, right back at you. If you want to watch on YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket, head over there, subscribe, watch the show over there, hop in the chat, comment on all the things that we're covering over here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thank you again for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in. Now, Cavaliers, Dunzoed, Indiana Pacers said, Sirs in 5. Let's go. And I didn't get to this stuff yesterday. I know this happened 2 days ago, but it's still relevant. We're still buzzing on the Pacers. We're going to have game 3 of probably the Knicks and Pacers the same day as the Indy 500. Indianapolis is going to just be buzzing with excitement, and they'll probably be buzzing off of a little bit of alcohol as well because it's race day and Pacers game day. That's just the way that it works. And going back a couple days to game 5 and the Pacers win over the Cavaliers, I'm very intrigued to see what the Cavaliers do going forward. I think I know what they're going to do, and I'm going to run through all of it. Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland were both clearly hurt in that series. They were both limping around at different points during the game. You know, like Darius Garland would stop on a dime, and he'd miss a jump shot, and then he'd go back hobbling a little bit. If you've ever hurt your toe, then you understand, you know, how brutal of an injury that is. I do think part of why Darius Garland settled for 6 threes in game 5 was because of the injury. Same thing with Mitchell. He settled for 13 threes. I think part of it was the ankle, having to run and cut and jump because it's his left ankle. And so obviously if you're going up with your right hand, most of the time, like you're jumping off your left foot. So thankfully, neither one of them made the threes that they took. Darius Garland, 0 of 6 from 3. Donovan Mitchell, 4 of 13. And they didn't only struggle to shoot from 3. They both really struggled to shoot from everywhere. Darius Garland was only 4 of 16 from the floor. Donovan Mitchell was 8 of 25 from the floor. It's not good. I will say, I do appreciate them emptying the clip on their way out. So if it wasn't for free throws, then the Pacers would have ran away with that game. But, you know, Donovan Mitchell got every call. I think it's just the NBA and the referees preparing the Pacers, you and me, for this probable upcoming series against the New York Knicks where Jalen Brunson's going to get every call every time he falls over. I don't know if you watched Knicks and Celtics last night, but that's essentially what happened. And back to game 5 for Pacers and Cavaliers. It's hard to win games when your stars aren't good. Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland didn't play well by their standards. Meanwhile, Tyrese Halliburton and Pascal Siakam very much did. That's why they won the game. Darius Garland didn't really score or get his teammates involved. He only had 3 assists. He was a Cavaliers low, minus 18. Donovan Mitchell had 35 points, but he wasn't very efficient. But I thought that the Pacers caught a break with how the Cavaliers attacked them in game 5. The Cavaliers didn't give Evan Mobley the ball enough. He was such a problem for the Pacers early in game 5. He posted Siakam up, and, you know, he had a couple, you know, little hook shots. He scored 10 points in the first quarter. He finished the night with 21. He'd set screens, roll to the rim. He hit that little push shots. You know, he had a 3 in the second quarter. I thought it was pretty obvious that Evan Mobley had it going offensively. And the Cavaliers were just like, that's great. We're not going to give you the basketball. And the Pacers were like, thank you so much. After scoring 10 points in that first quarter, Evan Mobley only took 1 shot in the second quarter. They went back to him a little bit more in the third where he scored 6 points, but you know, fourth quarter, they didn't go to him. He only took 2 shots in the fourth quarter. And I thought that by not giving him the ball, the Cavaliers really bailed the Pacers out. Like, he just looked so much better movement-wise, also playing on a bum ankle, compared to Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. And the Cavaliers were just like, that's cool. You go play defense, man. And I'm glad that that's what they did, because he would have cooked the Pacers last night. Or, excuse me, two nights ago. You know, he scored 24 points on 8 of 12 shooting. He also had 11 rebounds and 2 blocks. Like, he was great for Cleveland in game 5, really for the first time since game one. And I'm glad that they were so willing to allow Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell to just chuck shots all night. And the dominant performances, because we got two of them from Evan Mobley in that series, makes me a little nervous about probably playing against the Knicks, because Karl Anthony Towns is better, I think, than Evan Mobley as of right now. And it'll be a little bit different because the Knicks don't play two bigs very often. They have a little bit in this series against Boston. They're just like, you know what? We're just going to beat you up on the offensive glass. You may make more threes than us, but if we take 10 more shots than you do, and if we take more free throws than you do, then we're going to have a chance. That's kind of been how the Knicks have gone about attacking Boston in their series, and it's a large part of why they're up 3-2. Mitchell Robinson has been excellent in that series. And I'm looking at this potential matchup, and it's like, man, like Miles Turner having to guard Karl Anthony Towns for, 6 or 7 games. Like, how is that going to go? And that's probably an unfair statement for me to make, because Miles Turner has been so good this year in these playoffs. And I think it's going to continue. He's playing some of the best basketball of his career right now, but he's going to have his hands full defensively, trying to deal with Karl Anthony Towns, trying to defend him on the perimeter, and also, obviously, with his back to the basket. Good news is Karl Anthony Towns will just randomly foul 4 times in like a 30-second span. It's pretty great. So he'll probably take himself out of some of these games against the Pacers. Anyway, back to game 5, just looking ahead a little bit there. The last thing that I noticed in game 5 is really something that's been a theme the entire series for Cleveland, and why the Pacers won the series. The role players for Cleveland just never really showed up in the series. DeAndre Hunter had 12 points in game 5. He was the only player not named Garland, Mitchell, or Mobley to score in double figures. By the way, Evan Mobley had 24 points on 8 of 12 shooting. Wild. Jared Allen scored 9 points in the first half and didn't score at all in the second half. He just kind of disappeared. Ty Jerome played well, but they weren't going to play him at all. But then, Donovan Mitchell goes to the locker room, to get his ankle, looked at it a little bit more. So they kind of have to play Ty Jerome. He only played 11 minutes, and he scored 8 points. But, the Cavaliers significantly cut their bench in that game. Max Strus played 26 minutes, didn't score a point. Isaac Okoro played 16 minutes, only scored 2 points. Dean Wade played 19 minutes, only scored 4 points. The role players for Cleveland just simply were not as good as the Pacers were throughout the entire series. And that was a huge theme, and it's why the Pacers are back in the Eastern Conference Finals. The role players last year were awesome. Best one was TJ McConnell. He coming off the bench, and he would just be TJ McConnell, and it worked really well. And this year, I think Obi Toppin has kind of taken this, the staff of I'm the best bench player for the Pacers, because he's been really good all playoffs long, really since he kind of found his jumper, because he struggled to start the season. He's been amazing. And you need guys like that. You need good role players if you want to win in the playoffs. And the Pacers have them in abundance. Game 1 against the Knicks, Rick Carlisle is going to play like 11 dudes. And it's going to be awesome. And the Knicks are going to be like, we have 7 guys, and we only feel good about 6 of them. And so it's just the contrast in that series is going to be a lot of fun. And a topic of conversation coming out of this Pacers and Cavaliers series is, what are the Cavaliers going to do next season? They've had this core group together for 3 years. They've made it to the second round all 3 years, and they've lost. Actually, that's not true. They lost in round 1 the first year that they had Donovan Mitchell. They're going to run it back. They won 64 games. They're not blowing this up. They're going to blame this loss on not being entirely healthy. It's a valid excuse. Maybe Evan Mobley comes back and he develops a little bit more. And if that happens, then they'll be good enough again to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. They were good enough to do it this year. They just, as Coach Carlisle said after the game, they just ran into a hotter team in the Pacers. And even though I think that's a cop-out, I think the Pacers are just better. But here's the thing. Cleveland will very likely be the favorite to win the Eastern Conference next year. And I say that with a lot of confidence. So, Jonathan, why is that? The Eastern Conference isn't very good. Let's just start there. The Western Conference in the NBA is significantly better than the Eastern Conference. Okay, like if you just go, team by team, Oklahoma City, the 1 seed out in the West, is better than Cleveland. Houston probably not better than Boston. The Lakers. Look, let's just do this. Let me look here. The 8 seed in the Western Conference would have been either the 5 or 6 seed in the Eastern Conference. I mean, that's really all that you need to know. There are some Western Conference teams that, would have avoided the play-in tournament if they were out east. And the Eastern Conference is only going to get weaker this next season. Jason Tatum out all year next year because he tore his Achilles. By the way, I hope that dude gets better soon. He's one of the best players in the NBA, and the NBA is better whenever he plays. Also, Giannis could not be part of the Bucks next year. Even if he is, guess what? Damian Lillard tore his Achilles. The Bucks aren't going to be as good. And so now, when you look at the Eastern Conference, when you look at just pure talent, who are the most talented teams going to be in the East next year? Now, obviously, Giannis could demand a trade and go play for the Pistons or something. But even then, like the Cavaliers top to bottom, you could make a very strong argument that they would be the most talented team in the Eastern Conference next season. And they know this. They know this full and well. So I think that they're going to run it back, and it'll be interesting. And also, since Jason Tatum's not playing next year and Damian Lillard's out and Giannis could end up in Houston or wherever else he ends up, the Pacers are going to have another excellent opportunity next year if they're able to keep this team together. Hopefully, they're able to keep Miles Turner here, for just a little bit longer. They're going to be they're going to have an opportunity to be like a 1 or 2 seed in the Eastern Conference next year, because in addition to Boston not having Jason Tatum, new ownership's going to come in and be like, yeah, that luxury tax, see ya. And they're going to trade Drew Holiday, and they might move Derek White, and Sam Hauser's going to be gone, and all that kind of stuff. Like that amazing roster in Boston is going to be broken apart a little bit. So they're going to be worse. The Bucks are going to be worse. The Knicks, we'll see what they wind up doing this offseason. Their roster is very expensive. The Pacers are still going to be good next year. The Pistons will probably be good. But you look through there, if you're Cleveland, and you're not shaking in your boots over any of the teams or any of the guys that are going to be playing in the Eastern Conference next season. So we'll see. I do want to talk a little bit more about the offseason in the NBA. I promise it's going to be worth your time. It has to do with the Pacers and a big move that they could make this offseason. I'll tell you what it is when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
If it's in today's sports world, it's here. The real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy's Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there, subscribe. You can hop in the chat to be part of the show. You can also watch on Twitter, __ Jonathan Smith. If you want to follow me there, you can also watch the show there. And you can also listen via the Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. And if you want even more from me, you can go check out the My Take Is YouTube page. Now, I've wrestled with whether or not I wanted to talk about this, and I'm going to, because I do think that it's in the cards. It's probably got the same probability as, drawing a royal flush in Texas Hold'em. So possibility, yes. Likely, not really. A report came out last week about Giannis Antetokounmpo being open-minded to being traded, which is amazing. I just would like to let everyone know that I'm open-minded about, someone giving me like $1 million. Like I would be very open to that. I'm open-minded about having Parmesan crusted chicken tonight for dinner. Open-minded to it. Not saying that it's going to happen, but I would be open-minded to it. And since the draft lottery, many jokes have been made and legitimate propositions. The people making legitimate propositions are dumb. Have been, discussed about the Mavericks trading that number 1 pick for Giannis. I don't think that's going to happen. It's Nico Harrison, so I don't really know what he's going to do, but I wouldn't put it past him because it's Nico Harrison and the guy's an idiot. Anyway, the Pacers should 1,000% make that trade, though. If Giannis really wants out of Milwaukee, the Pacers could put together a great trade package for him. They'd give up quite a bit, but they could send 6 first-round picks because they control 6 of their next 7 first-round picks. Pascal Siakam, you'd probably have to give him up for salary reasons based on my understanding of the cap, which is not great, to be fair. So maybe you can hold on to Siakam. I don't know. You'd also have to send Jarris Walker, which I would hate, and Benedict Mathurin. That's as good of a package as a lot of teams could offer for Giannis now. They wouldn't be able to outbid a team like Houston. They probably wouldn't be able to outbid a team like San Antonio. But that is a very solid trade package that would allow for the Milwaukee Bucks to retool. The Pacers would likely have to send them Siakam for salary purposes, which would suck. But Giannis, paired with Tyrese Halliburton, would be amazing. Paired with Miles Turner, would be amazing. He would slide perfectly, Giannis would, into that Pascal Siakam role, the role that he had been playing. They could isolate him at the elbow like they do with Siakam. He could set screens and roll like Siakam currently does. He can post up like Siakam currently does. He's an excellent passer. Giannis is probably a better passer than Pascal Siakam is. So, you'd be able to run even more screen and roll with Giannis and Halliburton. And because of Miles Turner and his so very, very important ability to shoot the ball from 3, he's not in the way for Giannis to play underneath the rim, and he can play power forward like he wants to. So I would love this. I'm sure you would as well. And Giannis would just be a great fit here in Indianapolis. Indianapolis already has the Pacers already have a ton of great players. If you added Giannis to this Pacers team, they would be the favorite to win the East. Now, the issue is the Bucks and the Pacers play in the same division. Usually, not always, but usually, when these big-time trades are made with superstars, they usually send them to the other conference. That way they don't have to play them 4 times a year. But if Giannis goes to the Bucks and says, I would like to be traded to the Pacers, then he's probably going to end up on the Pacers because that's how it works in the NBA now. Now, I don't know if Giannis would want to play for the Pacers. The Pacers did just bounce him out of the playoffs 2 years in a row. I'm sure he doesn't want to be viewed as Kevin Durant was when the Warriors bounced him out of the playoffs and he was playing with the Thunder, and then he went to them in free agency. But the Pacers are all about basketball, and so is Giannis. My favorite thing about Giannis is he doesn't work out with guys that aren't his teammates in the offseason, because why in the world would he work out and help his competition get better? Love that about him, but from a basketball standpoint, I think it'd be a great fit. Giannis would be able to compete for titles like he wants to. Like the Pacers would be people are talking about the Pacers winning the title now, as they should be, but we would get title talk here in Indiana in frickin' October. It'd be great. Once again, they'd be the best team in the Eastern Conference. He and Tyrese Halliburton are young enough that the first-round picks that you'd be sending to Milwaukee probably wouldn't be that great anyway. So if Giannis really wants out of Milwaukee and he really wants to win, Pacers make a lot of sense, and I think they should 1,000% make that phone call if they don't win it all this year. If you win it all this year, run it back, see if you can repeat. You could argue if you wanted to repeat, then you should definitely make that phone call. But hey, I'm not going to question what Kevin Pritchard does because he's just done a fantastic job over the past, several years building what is a championship level roster. So we'll see. Speaking of championships, I hope the Celtics can find a way to push this to 7 games. The Celtics found a way to win last night, and it was in the way that they always find a way to win. They hit 22 of 49 threes. Crazy. They made 7 more threes than New York, and they won by 25. That was the difference in the game, and they are more than good enough to do that again in Madison Square Garden. Hopefully they can. We want that series to go as long as possible because of the series going to 6 games. We now know that the Pacers and Knicks/Celtics series is going to happen it'll start next Wednesday, May 21st. So the Pacers have a nice long break to kind of just relax and chill out. Monday is game. Is that right? What's today? Today's Thursday. Friday is game 6 tomorrow. Tomorrow's game 6 between Boston and New York. Game starts at 8. Hopefully, the Celtics find a way to push it to 7 games, and they are more than good enough to do that. I mean, you saw it last night. Derek White comes out, hits like his first 4 threes. TD Garden is rocking. Dudes are yelling. It's great. People are ripping their shirts off. Not really. I don't know. But they were really good. Jaylen Brown goes for 26 points, 12 assists, 8 rebounds. Last year, Jaylen Brown liked a tweet that said if Jaylen Brown was the number one option, he'd average around 30 and be a legitimate MVP candidate. And he has an opportunity to prove that. He did it last night. He was awesome. Grabbed every big rebound, made every big play, was 3 of 5 from 3. Derek White had 34. He was 7 of 13 from downtown. Like, this is why this team is so dangerous, because they just shoot the ball so incredibly well. I mean, 22 of 49 from 3. Like, come on now. That's crazy. If you shoot the ball that well, if you make 22 threes, like you're giving yourself an excellent chance to win every single time. So that was really good. Luke Cornett off the bench. Kristaps Porzingis is still dealing with some illness stuff, so he apparently couldn't even breathe last night. So he only played 12 minutes. But Luke Cornett was like, "That's cool. Let me just go for 10 points, 9 rebounds, and 7 blocks." He was plus 20 off the bench in 26 minutes. Like, the Celtics, they are deep. Are they as good without Jason Tatum? No, absolutely not. But this is a team that won a title last year. Knocking off, the defending champs is never easy, especially when they're as talented as Boston is. Like Drew Holiday, two-time champ. He was good last night. He had the Jalen Brunson assignment, and Jalen Brunson wasn't great last night. Part of that was because he fouled out, but he only had 22 points. He was only 7 of 17 from the field. Karl Anthony Towns, he got into foul trouble last night. That's the other thing about New York. Karl Anthony Towns gets into foul trouble as much as any other star in the NBA ever has. And like he will just take himself out of games by committing dumb fouls. And when your opponent's second best player, and on some nights best player, just takes himself out of games like he did last night, you're going to have an excellent chance to win that game. I also think that the Knicks, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, they can be kind of up and down offensively. They were down last night. If they're down again in game 6, then the Celtics are going to have an excellent chance to win that game tomorrow night. So that series is not over. The Celtics are more than good enough to win game 6 and force a game 7 in TD Garden. Now, speaking of game 6, arguably the best series so far in these playoffs is going to game 6 tonight. The Thunder and the Nuggets. This series deserves to go 7 games. Nikola Jokic has been good in this series and not as good as normal. I think that the Thunder have actually done a really good job of limiting him. They're the first team I've seen that make him go left. Because like when you watch the Nuggets play and you watch Jokic post up, he always tries to get back to that right hand. It's not that he can't finish with his left hand, but he just rather finish with his right. And so you'll see him kind of beat up and work on, and Isaiah Hartenstein and Jalen Williams comes in and he's just a pest. And meanwhile, they've got another big, usually Chet Holmgren, guarding Aaron Gordon, just kind of like sitting on the baseline, just waiting to come over and play help defense. Like it's been so funny to watch the Thunder just completely ignore all of these other options for Denver in this effort to stop Jokic. And Jokic was great in game 5. The dude went crazy. And hopefully he does it again tonight. And hopefully we get a game 7. Warriors and Timberwolves, that series ended last night. Look, when Steph Curry doesn't play for Golden State, like they're going to be in trouble. Jimmy Butler wasn't playoff Jimmy last night. He only scored 17 points. And like he was going to have to be better than that. They got enough contributions from other guys that if Jimmy Butler had been better, then they probably would have won. Podziemski went for 28. Jonathan Kuminga went for 26. What a resurgence from him, but it just wasn't enough. Anthony Edwards had 22 points, 12 assists, and 7 rebounds. He's been so good in these playoffs. Julius Randle has yet to have any Russell Westbrook moments where he just gets tunnel vision and does whatever he wants. He had 29, 8, and 5 last night. Mike Conley, he had like this awesome stretch where he hit a few threes. The Target Center in Minneapolis was rocking. It was really cool and fun to watch. Game 5 Gobert, 17 and 8 in 28 minutes, 8 and 9 from the field, not bad. And some solid bench production as well. DiVincenzo and Naz Reid doing what they do off the bench. The Timberwolves are really good. And when it comes to the Pacers, we want the Timberwolves to beat the Nuggets/Thunder in the Western Conference Finals. Because if the Pacers get to the NBA Finals and they play the Minnesota Timberwolves, they will have home court advantage because they have a better record than Minnesota, having gone 50-32, while the Timberwolves have only gone 49-33. So we become big-time Minnesota Timberwolves fans whenever the Western Conference Finals start, because due to the in-season tiebreaker, the Nuggets will have home court advantage over the Pacers, and obviously the Thunder, who had the best record in the league, if they end up playing in the finals, which I think they will. If they end up playing in the NBA Finals, then they'll have the home court advantage because best record in the NBA. So Western Conference Finals, you were rooting for the Minnesota Timberwolves. That way the Pacers can have home court advantage. Also, I'm telling you, you don't want the Pacers to play the Thunder because the Thunder are nothing short of spectacular. Can't wait to see, game 6 tonight between the Nuggets and the Thunder. Hopefully the Nuggets win because I want that series to go 7 games. It deserves to go 7 games. It's been fantastic. And yeah, when we come back here in about 5 minutes, 11 o'clock, We're going to get into the Colts schedule. They put out their schedule release video last night. I've got many thoughts and takeaways from it. It's brutal. It is a tough schedule. We're going to get into every game. At 11:40, Destin Adams of A to Z Sports, he covers the Colts. He's going to join the show, and we're going to talk even more about this Colts schedule. So Destin Adams coming up here in about 45 minutes, and my thoughts on the Colts schedule when we come back.
In honor of Indy's great tradition, Carter's My Plumber presents the Carter 500 Hot Water Marathon. Now through May 31st, call Carter's My Plumber and get a $500 instant discount on our exclusive Allegiant series. A quality Bradford white water heater, American strong and built to be the best. Get hot water today and save $500 during the Carter 500 Marathon. From Indy's hot water experts, Carter's My Plumber.
Carter'sMyPlumber.com.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today?
My car is making this
do this. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy's Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe watching on Twitter, __ Jonathan Smith. If you'd like to follow me there, you can also watch the show there as well. So it's a great follow just for that reason. You can also listen via the Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. Now, the Colts schedule, it's out. It has been released, and something weird's going on with my computer. There we go. The Colts schedule came out last night, and I thought that the video was really cool. Minecraft themed, probably in honor of the Minecraft movie. If you missed it, they had to take it down. And say, well, Jonathan, why did they have to take it down? So they were throwing shots at people throughout the whole video. And like for example, obviously the Colts are going to play the Chiefs this year. And in that part of the video, they had Patrick Mahomes Sr. fighting John Rocker. If you missed that whole beef, you can go find it on Twitter. It's very public. And long story short, the beef ended with Mahomes Sr. wanting to fight John Rocker in the Rough and Rowdy event put on by Barstool Sports every single year. And then, in addition to it, they also had, not Derek Schultz, what's his name? The Fox the Fox reporter. They had him and Ian Rappaport going at it, fighting each other at a Starbucks. Jordan Schultz, that's his name. They had Jordan Schultz and Ian Rappaport fighting in a Starbucks when they announced the Rams game. That was funny. But the reason why they had to take it down was the Colts opened their season with the Miami Dolphins, hence the shirt today. And so when they announced that game, it's like week 1 versus the Dolphins at home. Everyone's like, yay, Dolphins at home. And then in the little Minecraft video thing that they did, they have a dolphin swimming in a Tyreek Hill jersey, and they've got the dolphin essentially being arrested by the Coast Guard, which is hysterical. That is so funny. But probably not. I don't know. I think that's okay. If you don't want to get made fun of for being arrested, then don't get arrested. Hey, I'm probably wrong about that. Anyway, in terms of the actual schedule itself, I have some takeaways. My first takeaway is we're going to learn how good this defense is early. And we're going to see whether or not Lou Anarumo can really coach or not. They open with the Dolphins, even though the Dolphins are, they weren't a playoff team last year. They can score. Mike McDaniel in that offense can flat out score, man. Tua's going to be healthy week 1, probably. Tyreek Hill should be healthy. Jalen Waddle should be healthy. Their stable of running backs should all be healthy. Seriously, that is a tough week 1 matchup for this defense. And we're going to find out week 1 how good of a defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo is. And then, hey, guess what? Week 2, you get the Denver Broncos. You get the year 2 edition of Bo Nix and Sean Payton. Good luck. Once again, we're going to find out very quickly how good of a defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo is. Week 3, they get a nice little break. They'll play the Titans, who shouldn't be very good. But hey, maybe Cam Ward winds up being a stud. If so, that could be a tough game. Then week 4, they go to Los Angeles to play the Rams. That's Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay. That is 3 good offenses and 3 teams that expect to be good this year in the first month of the season for the Indianapolis Colts. That is a tough, tough way to open up the season. And so we're going to find out very quickly about Lou Anarumo and how good of a defensive coordinator he is. We're going to figure out whether or not, the Cam Bynum and the Charvarius Ward signings in the offseason, how impactful those are going to be. We're going to figure out if Leatu Latu has made a leap or not. We're going to learn a lot about this defense in the first month of the season. And it's not just the defense. We should find out really about the Colts in general over the course of that first month. The Miami Dolphins defense shouldn't be outstanding this year. It should still be pretty solid, though. They hired a new defensive coordinator last year. And so, year 2 of that system, we'll see how the Colts deal with that. We'll see how the Colts deal with, I'm not worried about the Titans, but, we'll see how they deal with the Broncos, who were a very stout defensive team last year, led the NFL in sacks. So we'll see how the Colts kind of deal with that. And then, the Rams expect to win a Super Bowl this year. I think that is what they are expecting. And that means the defense is going to be good. It was good last year towards the end of the season once all their young players kind of figured it out. So we're going to get a pretty good gauge on how good or bad this Colts team is very, very quickly this next season. So, yeah, that first month is brutal. And then it just doesn't get any easier. Week 5, they'll play the Raiders at home, who should be better with Geno Smith. Week 6, they're going to play the Cardinals, and the Cardinals are weird. I think that the Cardinals are going to be a very good team. That is my expectation for them this next season. The issue is Kyler Murray going to be healthy or not? That is the thing for them, because when Kyler Murray was healthy last year, the Cardinals were good. Jonathan Gannon is an excellent head coach. He's also a good buddy of Shane Steichen because they coached together on that Eagles team that went to and lost the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs. And so we'll see how that goes. It's not an easy opening, month and a half for the Colts. So I'm very intrigued to kind of see how they deal with the opening schedule, because it's just brutal. There's no other word for it. Good luck. If the Colts started 1-5, that would not be surprising at all. It wouldn't be, because they just, that's just a tough schedule to open the season. And then week 7, they are at the Chargers. That's another incredibly tough game. That's another trip out to Los Angeles, right? Where, geez, man, the Colts are traveling so much this year. Geez Louise. Anyway, so they're back out to LA, and the Chargers are going to be good. If the Chargers won the NFC West, that would not be surprising. Jim Harbaugh, excellent head coach. Justin Herbert, very talented. A guy who has a 5,000-yard passing season. They're kind of due to be really good this year. They were good last year. They made the playoffs. They're going to run the football well. Justin Herbert's going to sling it all over the field. Their weapons got better. They're going to be tough. They have a great offensive line. Chargers, good luck winning that game in LA. And then week 8, they play Tennessee. That is the halfway mark of the season. Week 8, Tennessee at home. Through the first 8 games of the Colts season, there's only 2 games that I feel very confident in the Colts winning, or at least having a chance to win. And it's the Titans twice. Every other game, I look at it and I'm just like, that game's probably going to be super duper tough. I mean, that's just the very simple reality of the opening part of this, or of the opening half of this Colts schedule. There's only 2 games on there where you're like, yeah, that's probably a win. Every other one doesn't feel that way. Some of them feel like total losses. And then guess what? Week 9, they're at Pittsburgh. And I know that they've beaten Pittsburgh the last 2 years, and it's starting to kind of seem like the Colts have their number, and we don't know who's going to play quarterback for the Steelers quite yet. Here's the thing. It's Mike Tomlin. That defense is filled with studs. They're going to be good. They're going to be 9-8, 10-7, somewhere around there. That's the very simple reality of the Steelers. That game's going to be tough. It's on the road. That is not an easy place to go and win. Oh, and Mike Tomlin is an excellent head coach. And then week 10, a game that I should feel confident in the Colts winning, a game that I should be able to look at and be like, yeah, the Colts are better than the Falcons, because they are. The issue is the games in Germany and the games overseas are always weird. So it's hard to be confident about that game. And then week 11, they get a bye week. Yeah, they get a whole week to adjust from being in Munich. Congratulations. And then they play Kansas City week 12 on the road at Arrowhead. That's a loss. They're not beating the Kansas City Chiefs on the road in Arrowhead. It's not happening. It's not happening. Then they host the Houston Texans. It's a winnable game, even though I expect for the Texans to be the best team in the Colts division this season. And then week 14, they're at Jacksonville. This probably isn't the year where they break that, road game in Jacksonville curse. Probably not. Apparently, breaking news as we're talking about the Colts and their schedule, the Colts reached out to Tyreek Hill's agents to apologize to Tyreek Hill over their schedule release video. I don't know, Tyreek. Maybe don't get arrested, and then people won't be able to do that to you. Pretty simple. Anyway, back to the Colts schedule. They're not beating Kansas City in Kansas City. Houston at home, very winnable. Week 14, they're at Jacksonville. They're not breaking the curse this year. It's not happening. The Colts, their quarterback's just not good enough to do it. Even though I will say, I do think it is a slight advantage for the Indianapolis Colts to be playing Jacksonville later in the year. Gives them 13 weeks worth of film to look at Liam Cohen and this new offense, because the Jacksonville Jaguars have a new head coach. Maybe this is the guy who will finally unlock Trevor Lawrence. We'll see. Week 15, they're at Seattle. That game feels winnable. The Seahawks offensive line's bad. Their defense is going to be stellar, but the offensive line's bad. I don't think Sam Darnold is going to be a top 5 quarterback in every major stat once again this year. He might, but I would be very surprised by that. Week 16, they're on Monday Night Football. I don't know why, but they are. They're going to be really bad by the time week 16 rolls around. And they're going to play the 49ers. And the 49ers, to me, pretty similar to Seattle. I think they're going to be good, but I don't really know. So that's a Monday Night Football game. That game might be winnable. We'll see how injured and banged up the 49ers are at that point in the season. We'll see if Brock Purdy has turned into a pumpkin yet. Week 17, they get the Jags at home. That should be a game that they win. That is the easiest stretch of their season, I think. And it's brutal. It's Seattle on the road. Not an easy place to go win. San Francisco, Kyle Shanahan, they're going to be well prepared. Now, both of those teams are wild cards. I kind of hit on that. Like, if Seattle was really good this year, I wouldn't be surprised. But also, if they went 5-12, I wouldn't be surprised. For the 49ers, same thing. If they went 12-5, I'd be like, yeah, it's Kyle Shanahan. Brock Purdy's been good. He was good again this year. Yeah, not a surprise. But if they went 5-12, I also wouldn't be surprised, because Kyle Shanahan has had bad years before. I know some people love Brock Purdy. I don't know how to feel about him. I think that he's been a major benefactor of the elite weapons around him. One of them's gone. No more Deebo Samuel. Christian McCaffrey's still there, but that guy can't stay healthy. George Kittle, they extended him this offseason. Guess what? That guy can't stay healthy. Trent Williams is like the oldest guy in the NFL. He's still a stud playing left tackle, but like, the guy's only getting older. So we'll kind of see how good they are too. But for that to be the easiest stretch of the Colts season, it's brutal. At Seattle, tough place to play. San Francisco, I would be willing to bet that they're going to be good. It also contains the road game at Jacksonville, a place that Colts haven't won in over a decade now. And then they close their season week 18 on the road against the Houston Texans. If things go the way that I expect them to, the Texans will have already locked up the AFC South. So, we'll get to see some Dave Mills, and it'll be great. It'll be fun, to watch the Colts fight to go 9-8 while the Texans are like, yeah, we locked up the division 2 weeks ago. It's probably where we're going to end up at. But since the Texans will likely be playing their backups, the Colts might be able to start the 2026 year undefeated. And that'll be enough for Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen to retain their jobs one more year. That's what happened this last year. This is an incredibly tough schedule. The floor for the Colts, I think, is 5-12. I think that they somehow, some way find a way to win 5 games, even though I don't feel great about them winning 5 games. I really don't. Miami at home, that's going to be tough. Denver at home, that game's going to be tough. I think they win at Tennessee week 3. The Rams on the road, tough game. Vegas at home, tough game. Arizona at home, if Kyler Murray plays, tough game. At the Chargers, not winning that one. Tennessee at home, congratulations. You picked up your second win in week 8. At Pittsburgh, tough game. Atlanta should be a win, but it's in Germany, so I don't really know. At Kansas City, you're not winning that one. Houston at home, I think you probably win that one. At Jacksonville, no way. At Seattle, no way. Versus San Francisco, probably not. Jacksonville at home, congratulations. You just got your 4th win of the year in week 17. And then week 18, at Houston, when Houston's resting everybody, there's your 5 wins. That's it. Every other game, I'm just like, yeah, wouldn't be surprised if they lost that one. So I think the absolute floor is 5 wins for the Colts this season. I think the not even glass half full. Not even glass half full. Ross, great question. Do we even know yet who the quarterback will be for the Steelers? We do not. I don't care. I'm not picking the Colts with Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones to go into Pittsburgh and beat Mike Tomlin and what is once again going to be a very stout defense. Not doing it. If the game was at home, maybe. But look, the Steelers should have beaten the Colts at home, or should have beaten the Colts here in Indy last year with Justin Fields as their starting quarterback. Come on now. I don't feel great about that game. I do think that the glass overflowing with positivity version of this schedule, I think the ceiling for that is 12-5 because the Colts could beat Miami at home. They could beat Denver at home. They should beat Tennessee on the road. They're not beating the Rams in LA. I'd be very surprised if they won that game. They could beat the Raiders at home. If Kyler Murray doesn't play week 6 against the Colts, that game's at home, that's a game that they should win. I don't think that they're winning at the Chargers. Week 8, they should beat Tennessee at home. Week 9 at Pittsburgh, as Ross pointed out in the YouTube chat, Indy Sports Ticket, if you want to head over there and subscribe. Pittsburgh, we don't know who their quarterback is yet. Maybe it's Mason Rudolph. The Colts could win that game. The games in Germany are weird. They could beat Atlanta way out there in Germany. They're not beating the Chiefs in Kansas City. Not in November. I'd be very surprised if that happened. And then, they should beat Houston at home. Then at Jacksonville, this is not the year that they break that curse. It's not happening. At Seattle, if Sam Darnold isn't as good as he was last year, then they should have a chance to win that one. San Francisco at home. San Francisco probably going to be banged up because the guys that they have on their roster tend to be a little banged up. Jacksonville at home, they should win that one. And then if the Colts are a good team and they are competing for the division, and if they're winning every game that they could win, then they obviously would be. Then that game at Houston, week 18, I don't think that they win at Houston, but we'll see. So I think 12-5 is the absolute ceiling for this team. I don't think that they're going to go 12-5. They're probably going to go 8-9 or 9-8 because that's what this roster is. And the difference between 5-12 and 12-5 for the Colts this year is going to be the development of Anthony Richardson. If Anthony Richardson is a guy who can complete, 63% of his passes, then the Colts going 11-6 makes a lot of sense because there's some good players, not a lot of great, but there's some good players on this roster. If Daniel Jones, I don't expect him to be great. If he's the guy, then the Colts are probably going to go 9-8. So whether or not the Colts are awesome or not, but I don't know. I would be very surprised if the Colts won 10 games or more this year, just because this team is 500. That's who they are. That's who they've been. Ross saying I didn't sound very high on my Dolphins. Yeah, I am not. I'm not very high on them. The defense got worse. The offensive line isn't very good. Yeah, sure, they got a ton of weapons, but if you can't protect the quarterback and if you can't get after the other guy's quarterback, then you're probably not going to win very many games. So with that being said, the Dolphins being healthy week 1 is a major disadvantage for the Colts because then, you have to deal with the full arsenal of that Dolphins offense. C. Fitz chiming in saying, are we going against Dan Dockich and taking under 7.5 wins? I don't know yet. I won't make my over-under win total bets until later because like teams are going to have guys get hurt during training camp. It happens every year. Josh Downs last year here for the Colts, he missed time because, Nick Cross tackled him during freaking 7-on-7s, which is still wild to me. So teams will have guys get hurt. Like someone important is going to tear their ACL this year. It's going to happen. It'll happen before the year starts. I want to know what those injuries are before I make any sort of bet one way or the other. We'll see. When we come back, here in about 4 minutes, we will put a bow on Pacers, Cavaliers. I'm going to look ahead a little bit to next year, talk about the Eastern Conference, because the Eastern Conference next year is going to be fascinating. I'll tell you why when we come back here in about 4 minutes. Coming up in 20 minutes, though, Destin Adams. And we'll continue to talk Colts schedule and kind of what the season looks like.
may, one day, be a must-listen for sports enthusiasts.
Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
Uh-oh. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thanks for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, you can also watch on Twitter, __ Jonathan Smith. You can follow me there as well. And you can also listen via that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. And if you want even more from me, you can go check out the My Take Is YouTube page. I've gotten several compliments on my shirt today, which I greatly, greatly appreciate. I think one of the many areas, many areas where my wife has made my life better is I will look at shirts and be like, I like that shirt. And then I'll just move on. I'm not buying a new shirt. I got plenty of shirts. They all look great. And then my wife will just buy that said shirt that I liked for me. Not for me, but you know what I mean. And so, yeah. So shout out to the wife for this shirt. Anyway, Agent Orange in Charge asking, when will Tua get concussed this year? Over under 5 games. Let's go under. Let's go game 1. Colts start 1-0 because Tua gets hurt. I hope that didn't happen, but if it did and it led to a Colts win, then hey, I'm not going to complain. Cavaliers, game 5. Obviously, they lose to the Pacers in 5, and I just kind of wanted to put a bow on that series because now we're hopefully getting ready for Pacers and Celtics, because if the Celtics win the series, that means it goes 7 games, and you don't have to worry about Jason Tatum. I think the Pacers would much rather play Boston without Tatum than play a fully healthy New York Knicks team. Donovan Mitchell were both clearly hurt. I think just after watching that series, I think that the Pacers would have won that series even if they'd been fully healthy. They just seemed like the better team. But they were both clearly hurt. I think that aided the Pacers in winning that series in 5 games. We saw them both limping around at different points during game 5. And with how banged up those guys were and how much they struggled. Darius Garland was Darius Garland was 0 of 6 from 3, 4 of 16 from the floor. Donovan Mitchell was 4 of 13 from 3, and only 8 of 25 from the floor. Like, that's not good. And when your star players are that bad, like, you're not beating the Pacers. Like, you're just not. And, if it wasn't for free throws, then the Pacers would have just ran away with that game. But it's hard to win when your stars aren't good. And Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland weren't by their standards in game 5. Garland didn't score or get his teammates involved. He only had 3 assists. He was a Cavaliers low, -18. Donovan Mitchell scored 35 points, but he wasn't very efficient. I thought that the biggest mistake that Cleveland made in that game 5 was they didn't give Evan Mobley the ball enough last night or during game 5. He was such a problem for the Pacers early. Posted Siakam up, got some easy shots like right at the rim, converted all of them. Okay, he scored 10 points in the first quarter. It was really, really impressive. He'd set screens and roll. He'd hit that little push shot. He had a 3 in the second quarter. I thought it was clear that he had it going offensively, and the Cavaliers were like, "That's great. You go play defense, man." After scoring 10 points in that first quarter, Evan Mobley only took 1 shot in the second quarter. They went back to him a little bit more in the third. He scored 6 points, but he only took 2 shots in the fourth quarter. And by not giving him the ball, the Cavaliers bailed the Pacers out. Like, he just looked physically, health-wise, so much better compared to Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, playing in game 5 on a bum ankle. And the fact that the Cavaliers were very content with allowing Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland to just empty the clip is kind of crazy to me, especially with how well Evan Mobley had been playing in that game. I'm glad that they did that because Evan Mobley was cooking 24 points on 8 of 12 shooting in that game 5. He also had 11 rebounds and 2 blocks. He was great for Cleveland, really for the first time since game 1. And I'm glad that the Cavaliers were so willing to go away from him during that game because, it's a large part of why the Pacers won. And the other thing, and I've talked about this quite a bit during these games, the role players for Cleveland just weren't very good in this series, and they weren't good again in game 5. DeAndre Hunter scored 12 points. He was the only player not named Garland, Mitchell, or Mobley to be in double figures. That is not a normal thing for Cleveland. Jared Allen scored 9 points in the first half. Didn't score at all in the second half. Ty Jerome played well, but he didn't enter the game until the second half. He only played 11 minutes, scored 8 points. If he'd played all game, he might have given the Pacers some issues, but he wasn't on the floor for very long. Isaac Okoro played 16 minutes, only scored 2 points. Dean Wade played 19 minutes, and he only scored 4 points. So the role players for Cleveland just weren't good enough to hang with the Pacers in that series. And that was a huge theme of the series in general, and it's part of why the Pacers are back in the Eastern Conference Finals. We saw this last year. TJ McConnell and the rest of the role players or bench guys for the Pacers were huge in that run to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. And look, we see this every year. You have to have good role players if you want to win in the playoffs. And the Pacers have them in abundance. And there's been a lot of discussion about the Cavaliers and, what they're going to do this next season. They're going to run it back, and they'll likely be the favorites to win the Eastern Conference. Jason Tatum isn't going to play next year. The Boston Celtics are blowing up that roster because they're paying a lot in luxury tax. The new owner, I expect, is going to show up and be like, I bought this so I can make some money. And I'd like to make as much money as possible. So let's maybe get out of the second apron, which will lead to them trading guys like Drew Holiday, maybe Derek White, Sam Hauser, Kristaps Porzingis maybe. And we'll just kind of see how things go from there. Giannis, may not be in Milwaukee next year. He could be heading out to the Western Conference. There's a real world where Donovan Mitchell's the second best player in the Eastern Conference next year behind Jalen Brunson. They just won 64 games. They're going to blame this loss to the Pacers on injuries. That's what they're going to do. They're going to sit back and be like, if Darius Garland had been fully healthy and if Donovan Mitchell had been fully healthy and if Evan Mobley had been fully healthy, then, we probably win that series. But what teams fail to realize whenever they say things like that, no one is fully healthy at this point during the season. Tyrese Halliburton has a thing on his back every time he walks to the bench. I guarantee you the Pacer players are in there getting treatment on their ankles and knees every day. Because basketball is just a physical sport that wears on you, especially with the way that the Pacers play up and down, running and gunning. And it's why it's so important for them to have 11 guys who can play. It's part of why they're so much fun to watch. And I can't wait just to look at the box score after game one of probably Knicks and Pacers, even though the Celtics can definitely win that series. And just have it be it's got 11 guys for the Pacers that all contributed and played and did all that. And then we're going to look at the Knicks and it's going to be 7 guys played. And it's always funny for me to look at. So we'll see how it goes. I am very excited for the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals for the second year in a row. There's a real world where they play in the NBA Finals this year. If they do, we want them to play the Timberwolves because I don't think that the Timberwolves are as good as the Nuggets or Thunder. In addition to that, if the Pacers play the Timberwolves in the NBA Finals, then they will have home court advantage. They won 50 games. The Timberwolves only won 49. So go Wolves the rest of the way out there in the West. And as always, go Pacers. When we come back, here in about 4 minutes or so, Destin Adams of A to Z Sports is going to join the show, and we're going to discuss the Indianapolis Colts and their schedule for this 2025 NFL season.
The best takes. Maybe. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thanks for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy's Sports Ticket. So head over there and subscribe. Maybe watch it on Twitter, _ Jonathan Smith, if you want to follow me and watch the show there. You can also listen via that Indy Sports Ticket app. Joined now by Colts beat reporter Destin Adams. What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. It's starting to warm up here in Indiana, so this is the prime weather time of the year here.
I'm off early today. I may go play golf. I may go grab a tee time and go shoot 130 and have a blast.
The weather is definitely permitting now, so I'm hoping you get out there.
I don't know. Shooting 130 sounds terrible, and that's probably what I would do. Let's start with the. I guess we can call it a controversy. Did you get to see the Colts schedule release video before it got pulled down?
I got to watch it before it got pulled down. Enough people saved it to where it's out there forever, whether they want to delete it or not. So it's not going anywhere.
I thought it was funny. I don't know. I am wrong on this. My thing is, if you don't want to be made fun of for getting arrested, then just don't get arrested. You know?
Yeah. There's definitely a few funny jabs in there. I think the one that I laughed at the most was Will Levis being thrown under a Tennessee Titans bus for the Titans one. That one had me rolling. There were a few good ones in there. Obviously the Tyreek Hill being pulled over by the Coast Guard with him being a Dolphin in the video was pretty controversial. At the end of the day, it is a situation that he's had trouble with the law multiple times over his NFL career. So I just think it was meant in good fun. I did not think it was going to be this major of an issue. But we woke up Thursday morning and it was still being talked about. So, it's that time of year, I guess. But I laughed at the video. I did. Was shocked to see it cause so much uproar. But that's what happens sometimes, I guess, Jonathan.
It is. And I thought it was funny. The one that I laughed at the hardest was the Jordan Schultz and Ian Rappaport fighting in a Starbucks line. I was like, that's great. That's funny. But in terms of the actual schedule itself, joined by Destin Adams, Colts beat writer for A to Z Sports NFL, talking about the Colts schedule. What are just some of the biggest things that jumped out to you about the schedule?
Yeah, so for a third straight year, week one at home, that was pretty shocking to me. I really thought that streak would end. Pretty big one, with it being Miami, really explosive offense. This is a fun fact that I don't know if a lot of people know. The Colts have played the Dolphins twice since Tua has been drafted. Neither of those games Tua's played in. So if he's healthy for week one, all things permitting, this will be the first time the Colts have ever played against Tua. So it'll be really interesting to see the Colts against that type of offense, very high power with the money they put into the secondary. That was the first one that really stood out to me. Only having 2 divisional games in the first 8 were interesting to me. Also, you only have 2 divisional games actually in the first 12. You have 4 of the rest of them in that week 13 to week 18 range. Makes the second part of the year very important, but we'll give you a little bit of cushion, I guess, to kind of get to feel out the rest of the division. So I feel like it's probably a pick your poison. The Colts have had 5 of the 6 divisional games in the first 9 before. I thought that was asinine. So I preferred this method of the divisional scheduling. But I can see why having to play 4 of your divisional games in that final 6 really can be a little bit troublesome as well.
Yeah, I agree. My biggest takeaway was we're going to figure out how good this defense is really quickly, because it's not even just like the Dolphins in week 1. It's the Broncos, Bo Nix and Sean Payton week 2. Tennessee in week 3 that's not a big deal. But then like it's at the Rams in week 4. I was like, that is just such a brutal start for Lou Anarumo and these new guys on this defense. What are you kind of expecting from the Colts in that first month of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, the NFL is throwing the new look defense into the fire pretty much early on. But, I mean, I think there's two sides of the coin here. I mean, yes, obviously, it probably isn't ideal to get some of these teams that maybe deal with injuries down the road in past years, like a Miami, like a Rams, early on in the season where they're most likely going to be closer to 100% than if you played them in week 12 or 13, for example. But I also think it's going to give the Colts a little bit of help here. I mean, nobody here in the NFL is going to have film on what this Colts defense is going to look like. So much new personnel, a drastic shift in defensive philosophy with Lou, who's already on record saying the way he calls this defense is going to be pretty different than how he called it in Cincinnati. So there's not much film on what this Colts defense is going to look like. So there could be a bit of shock to the Dolphins, to the Broncos, maybe even the Rams by week 4 with a guy like Lou who is not going to throw every single call he has in those first 3 weeks. So having those type of teams early and being able to not give them that much time to study what you like to do, what you do well, what you don't do as well, it could definitely be beneficial. And I'd prefer to play Matthew Stafford when he doesn't know everything about my defense than week 15 when a guy like him has been able to study through everything and just know how to pick you apart. And he's done that to the Colts in the past for sure.
Joined by Destin Adams, who covers the NFL for A to Z Sports. You can follow him on Twitter at the Destin Adams. What do you think is the easiest stretch of games for the Colts this year?
Ooh, easy is always a tough one. Tough way to put it. I mean, right now you would probably have to say the week 8 to bye area. So that's 3 games and then the bye. Obviously, it's Tennessee. Not a good football team last year. Obviously, some changes this offseason, a new quarterback coming in, but it's still a rookie quarterback. And Lou's had some success against young quarterbacks with how much he likes to confuse guys. Week 9 against the Pittsburgh Steelers team right now that might have Aaron Rodgers. Who knows? Right now, not on their roster. So right now you're looking at Mason Rudolph or Will Howard starting at quarterback. And then week 10, you go to Germany, and it's Atlanta, a really young Atlanta team. Going to be the first year with Penix at quarterback, and then you enter a bye. You look at that stretch on paper, and it's a really good opportunity to potentially take a 3-win streak going into the bye, at least 3-win streak with the Chargers before that. And you could honestly go week 5 to the bye just because just the Chargers being the playoff team from last year, that goes Raiders, Cardinals, Chargers, Titans, Steelers, Falcons. That's definitely the most friendly area of the schedule for the Colts entering the bye week because you exit the bye and it's going to be pretty tough.
It is. I don't know. The game in Germany really bothers me. I hate that the Colts. I felt like Jim Irsay wanted the Colts to play in that game. I did not because those games are always weird. I like a stretch after the bye week, which I know I'm probably very wrong on this. The stretch where it's at Jacksonville, which I know the Colts never win that game. I don't think that the Jacksonville is going to be very good this year. At Seattle, I don't think Sam Darnold is a top 5 statistical quarterback in the NFL again this year. San Francisco at home. You mentioned earlier how the Colts are front loaded with some teams that have struggled with injuries later in the season. San Francisco, like they've been really banged up for these past few years. And then Jacksonville at home, week 17. That I didn't think that stretch of the schedule looked too bad. What do you kind of think about that part of the season?
Yeah, I mean, coming out of the bye, the Kansas City-Houston games are going to be really tough, obviously, which were not in the section you said. But just coming out of the bye, those are there, pretty tough. It'll be interesting to kind of see where you're at going into Week 14. If you've been able to split either of those games, if you lost both of them, if you found a way to win both of them, that'd be great, obviously. But to see where you're at going into Week 14, Jacksonville will be interesting. I mean, we will be 13 weeks into the season at that point. That's 13 weeks the Jags have been able to figure out what they want the Travis Hunter role experiment to look like. Is he 100% of snaps on both sides at that point? Have they established that that is not the best path for them, and they have chose one of those two positions to be his primary and have a selective amount of packages where they find him on the other side of the ball? The Colts are probably going to find the Jags in both of these games with a more concrete answer to that question, which I don't like as much. I would have loved to see early in the season at least one of those Jags games to where they're still having to experiment with a player like that so much. So that'll be interesting to see. Seattle and San Francisco, I can see where you're coming from for sure. Seattle is interesting. A lot of changes on the offensive side of the ball, obviously. So we'll have to wait and see like what that looks like on that side of the ball. But I think McDonald and I think Robert Saleh for the Niners, two very good defensive-minded coaches. Saleh being a coordinator, obviously McDonald being the head coach over in Seattle. I think those defenses are going to be very difficult to go up against for whoever the Colts quarterback is. I'm still under the belief that I'd be shocked if Anthony Richardson doesn't win the job. So if he does win the job and is healthy come Week 16 and Week 15 there, I think those are two very tough defensive-minded coaches to go up against. Obviously, Richardson got the best of Saleh last year. I think he's going to have a little bit more talent in San Francisco, though.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I don't know. I'm not a big Brock Purdy believer. And the Seattle thing, you're right. Like, there's just a lot of turnover there, and you're right. That defense for Seattle is going to be really tough. And obviously, playing in Seattle is never easy. We'll see who wins that. We'll see who wins the quarterback battle. I'm with you. I think it's going to be Richardson, but I don't know. Like, all these Colts videos of them throwing to receivers on air are great, but I just want to see the real thing. What do you think is the absolute ceiling, like the absolute best record that the Colts could have with this schedule this year?
Oh man, my least favorite question every single year, Jonathan.
I think it's 12-5. If that helps you.
I mean, at the absolute best, you stay healthy throughout the year. I think the Colts are at their absolute best if Richardson takes another step and is that quarterback. I think 12 wins is probably that best case scenario. I think I probably fall at a prediction element more in a 9 or 10 realm. But I think losing 5 of these games is very doable. The Colts ended up having one of the easiest schedules in the NFL this year. It ends up being the 20th most difficult, which gives them about the 12th easiest. In terms of Vegas's look on each of these teams and how it looks. You're not having to play the Super Bowl champion this year, obviously, with the Eagles. You're playing the Chiefs. But you miss out on a lot of talented AFC teams on this schedule. No Bills, no Bengals, no Ravens. So they miss out on a lot of good teams on that side of the conference. So they definitely will have an opportunity to make up some ground and win some games. But it's all going to start with the AFC South. You got to do better than 3-3 like you did last year.
Totally agree with that. Like, you should probably sweep the Titans. I think they should sweep Jacksonville. That probably won't happen. And then if you can split with Houston, I think that you feel pretty good going 5-1 in the divisional games. Last thing for you, Destin, and I will let you go. Once again, joined by Destin Adams. You can follow him on Twitter at Destin Adams. He covers the Colts for A to Z Sports.com. Are you surprised that the Colts got more primetime games than the number 1 overall pick, Cam Ward, and the Tennessee Titans?
Yeah, the Colts' whole one primetime game beats out Tennessee. Or if you're a person that counts international games, the standalone game, but it's at 9:30 in the morning, so it's hard to call it prime time. But the Colts do have 2 standalone games in terms of that. I was a little shocked. I mean, usually I thought we'd see one of the Cam Ward versus Jacksonville games get a primetime slot just because it's the number 1, number 2 pick.
Yeah.
And even if you want to argue that Cam Ward was a pretty lackluster number 1 pick in terms of media coverage, Travis Hunter surely wasn't a lackluster number 2 pick. I mean, that outside of quarterbacks, you probably could make the argument that Travis Hunter was talked about more than anyone this draft cycle. And then the Jaguars trade up to was the most talked about move from the first round. So I really thought we could see one of those 2 Jags-Titans games get a prime time slot. And I guess we'll see. I don't have it pulled up right now where the Jags and Titans play each other, but I do know the NFL is at liberty to flex in and out games that second half of the year. So maybe if Tennessee and Cam Ward overperform expectations, maybe they'll find their way onto one of those games later in the year.
We'll see. I'm with you. Not getting a Tennessee and Jacksonville primetime game is surprising. I thought that if the Colts got one, it was going to be against the Titans, but obviously it's against the 49ers, which I'm totally here for. Destin, thank you for your time, man. As always, love your stuff on Twitter and your writing. Thanks, man.
Appreciate you having me.
You got it. That is Destin Adams. You can follow him on Twitter at the Destin Adams, where he does a great job covering the Colts. That's going to do it here on The Real Jonathan Smith Show. I'll be back again tomorrow from 10 to noon. Should have Zach Gray on, so we'll do bets and all that awesome stuff. Thank you again for tuning in. If you want more from me, go check out the My Take Is YouTube page, and I'll talk to you tomorrow starting at 10 a.m.